Welcome to my channel. In this video, I will be showing you how to complete Form I-130, Petition for Alien Relative. In this scenario, the petitioner will be sponsoring his wife, the beneficiary, who is already in the United States. The form can be found at www.uscis.com. Let's begin. We're starting the completion of the form, and we are starting at the section that says start here. The instruction is that the form is to be typed or printed in black ink. Part 1, Relationship. You are the petitioner, your relative is the beneficiary. So the petitioner is responsible for completing this form. The petitioner is who is applying for a benefit on behalf of the beneficiary. Question number 1, I am filing this petition for my spouse. Number 2, if you are filing this petition for your child or parent, select the box that describes your relationship. So since this is a spousal, or the beneficiary is a spouse, then question 2 would not be applicable. So we leave the boxes unchecked. Number 3 asks, if the beneficiary is your brother or sister, are you related by adoption? This question is also not applicable, so the boxes are left unchecked. Number 4, did you gain lawful permanent resident status or citizenship through adoption? No. We move on to part 2, information about you, the petitioner. Alien registration number. None is applicable here. This would be applicable to petitioners who would have gained U.S. citizenship through a naturalization process. USCIS online account number, if any. None for here also. This would be a number that a petitioner would have received if a correspondence was previously received from the USCIS office, and usually that number would begin with the letters IOE. US Social Security number, if any. So a US citizen would have a Social Security number. So this is the space where that is typed or written. Your full name, and again, this is asking for the petitioner's full name. You start out by writing or typing in your last name or family name. You move on to placing your first name here, followed by your middle name. If you don't have a middle name, you may go ahead and put NA, meaning not applicable. Moving on to part 2, information about you, the petitioner. We are continuing with information on the petitioner. Other names used, if any. Provide all other names you have ever used, including aliases, maiden name, and nicknames. So if you have used names outside of your stated names above on any official document or in any professional settings, then you would want to state those names here. Since it's not applicable to this petitioner, we go ahead and place NA in the boxes. Moving on to other information also for the petitioner, you are required to place your city, town, village of birth. So this would be the section for the city, town, or village of birth, country of birth. You place your country in this box. Date of birth supposed to be provided in this format. 2 digits month, 2 digits day, and 4 digits year. And you fill in the box. The petitioner here is a male, so you indicate that in the box. And the petitioner's mailing address is required in this area. In care of name, if there was someone at this address stated other than the petitioner who collects his mail, then that person's name would be placed here. Since it's not applicable in this case, we put not applicable or any as stated. So you're going to place your street address in this box, and these areas are referring to petitioners who may live in an apartment or have a suite or live on a floor. Depends on what the status of your mailing address is, or the configuration depends what's applicable to you. You would go ahead and select the correct option. In this case, the petitioner's mailing address is an apartment, and that's apartment number 25. City or town, Queens, New York, zip code, we place that in the box. Province, not applicable in this instance. Postal code, not applicable. Country, you place the country in the box. Question 11, is your current mailing address the same as your physical address? Yes. If it was otherwise, then you would place no. If you answered no to item number 11, provide information on your physical address in item numbers 12A to 13B. So, since we answered yes, then we would not be required to fill in any information for 12A to 13B. So this section is asking, provide your physical addresses for the last 5 years, whether inside or outside the United States. Provide your current address first, if it is different from your mailing address in items numbers 10A to 10I. Since the information is the same, we put same in the first box here, which means all the other boxes would be not applicable. So we are moving on to physical address number 2. And for this, the petitioner's address is placed here, and that would be his previous address. So we can see that this is the street number. He lived in an apartment, and that was apartment 30. And here is his city or town, state, zip code, province not applicable, postal code not applicable, and the country is placed in the box here. And these are the dates that he lived at the previous address. So he started living there on September 10th, 2019 to August 25th, 2024. So this question asks for the last 5 years. So since this date period would have covered 5 years, then we would not need to put any additional addresses. So we're moving on to marital information. And by the way, if you have several addresses and you do not have enough space in this section to hold everything, then you would want to add that additional information in section 9. Your marital information: how many times have you been married? So the petitioner has been married once. Current marital status: married. So this is a petition being filed for a spouse, so you would definitely need to check married, because that would suggest that you are currently married. Part 2, information about you, the petitioner. Date of current marriage, if currently married. So you place your date here that you got married. Place of your current marriage. So you place the city where you got married, the state, the province if applicable, the country if applicable. Names of all your spouses, and this is still referring to the petitioner's information. Provide information on your current spouse if currently married first, and then list all your prior spouses if any. So since the petitioner stated that he was married once, then only information would be required here is for spouse number 1, and this would also be the beneficiary. So that would mean that the sections for spouse 2 would be not applicable. Information about your parents. This is information on the petitioner's parent. So, full name of parent number 1, the petitioner states his parent's family name, parent number 1 family name, parent number 1 first name, parent number 1 middle name, date of birth of parent number 1, and the sex of parent number 1 is a male. Continuing to the other section, country of birth. This section is asking about the country of birth of parent number 1. So this is the box where you're stating the country, the city, town, village of residence of parent number 1, the country of residence of parent number 1. We move on to parent number 2, and the petitioner states the family name or last name for parent number 2, the given name of parent number 2, given name or first name that is, and the middle name of parent number 2. The date of birth is stated here for parent number 2. The sex of parent number 2 is stated. Country of birth, parent number 2, and city, town, village of residence. So in this case, parent number 2 is deceased, so that is stated there. Country of residence would not be applicable since this parent is deceased. Additional information about you, the petitioner. I am a U.S. citizen. If you are a U.S. citizen, complete item number 37. My citizenship was acquired through birth in the United States. After you print the document, you would indicate the status that is applicable to you here. The applicable box in this instance would be the first one, birth in the United States. So the computer would not allow me to select this box. So the intention would be to print the document and then indicate here. Number 38, have you obtained a certificate of naturalization or a certificate of citizenship? Since This stated that if you are a citizen, a U.S. citizen, complete items number 37. This would not be applicable. Neither would 39A, 39B, or 39C. Upon printing the document, you would place NA in these boxes. Again, the computer did not allow me to type in NA. Moving on. If you are a lawful permanent resident, complete item numbers 40A to 41. We already indicated above that the petitioner is a U.S. citizen, so this section also would be not applicable, and we indicate as such. Employment history, and this is also referring to the petitioner. So provide your employment history for the last 5 years, whether inside or outside the United States. Provide your current employment first. If you are currently unemployed, type or print unemployed in item number 42. So we see here that the petitioner is employed, and this is the name of his employer. So the address also of his job comes here in this section, and the occupation of the petitioner is placed here. We see here that the petitioner started this job on January 10th, 2018. So that would, and he's still working there, that would cover the 5-year referred to above. So in that case, only one employer information would be required. Moving on to employer 2. So since no other employment information is required, we go ahead and indicate not applicable in all these sections. Biographic information. Provide the biographic information about you, the petitioner. We're going to select not Hispanic, and upon printing the document, if you miss out any section, you could always use a black pen, black ink pen, and just indicate the correct response. Race, in this case, the petitioner is black or African American. The height of the petitioner is stated here. The weight, eye color. Moving on, biographic information continues. Hair color, this is stated here. Information about beneficiary. Alien registration number. So the beneficiary does not have an alien registration number. Again, if there were previous correspondence with the USCIS, then the beneficiary would be likely to have an alien registration number. So in this case, there is none available, so we indicate none in the space. USCIS online account number, none is available, we indicate as such in the space. US Social Security number, none is available, and we indicate as such. Beneficiary's full name. So the beneficiary is the spouse of the petitioner. We had previously indicated this person's name as the petitioner's spouse. So since the beneficiary and the spouse are one and the same, then it's natural that the information would be repeated. Other names provide all other names the beneficiary has ever used, including aliases, maiden name, and nicknames. So if the beneficiary was previously married and was using her name from her previous marriage and used to use a maiden name prior to that, then that would be indicated here. Also, if other names were used, like a first name, middle name, all that would be indicated here. In this case, it's not applicable, so we complete the sections as such. Other information about beneficiary: city, town, village of birth. So that information is indicated in the space. The country of the beneficiary's birth is indicated here. The beneficiary's date of birth, again, 2-digit month, 2-digit day, 4-digit year. Sex of beneficiary, we indicate here. Has anyone else ever filed a petition for the beneficiary? No is indicated here. If otherwise, you would select the applicable box. Note: select unknown only if you do not know and the beneficiary also does not know if anyone else has ever filed a petition for the beneficiary. Moving on. Beneficiary's physical address. If the beneficiary lives outside the United States in a home without a street number or name, leave item numbers 11A and 11B blank. Street number and name. So if you remember that we had placed this information previously for the petitioner. So the petitioner and beneficiary in this instance, they share the same address. Other address and contact information. Provide the address in the United States where the beneficiary intends to live if different from item numbers 11A to 11H. If the address is the same, type or print same in item number 12A. Since it's same, we go ahead and type same, which means that the other sections would be not applicable, and you want to state as such. Daytime telephone number, if any. So this is asking for the beneficiary's daytime telephone number. You indicate that in the space provided, and we're moving on to the beneficiary's mobile telephone number. You indicate that in the space provided. In this case, you will see that the beneficiary's daytime telephone number is the same as the mobile number. If it was different, then you would need to indicate as such. Email address, and this is the email address of the beneficiary. If there is no email address, then you would write NA indicating not applicable. Beneficiary's marital information. How many times has the beneficiary been married? The beneficiary has been married once, and that's to the petitioner. Current marital status. So it would have to be married since the beneficiary and petitioner are married. Date of current marriage, if currently married. So this date was previously stated for the petitioner as well. So it has to be a common date if both persons are in a marriage relationship. Place of beneficiary's current marriage. Again, this information is repeated as we had stated for the petitioner. Name of beneficiary's spouse, and as you can see, it's the information for the petitioner here. Again stated. Date marriage ended. So since the beneficiary has only been married once, and that's to the petitioner, and they are still married, then this question would be not applicable. Since the beneficiary has only been married once, then for spouse number 2, that section would be not applicable, and we state as such. Moving on, information about beneficiary's family. Provide information about the beneficiary's spouse and children. Person number 1, not applicable. The beneficiary in this case has no additional spouse as a result of any previous marriages and has no children. So all this section here for person number 1, person number 2, person number 3, all those section would be not applicable and stated as such. Continuing with information about beneficiary person number 4, also not applicable. Person number 5, not applicable. Beneficiary's entry information. Was the beneficiary ever in the United States? Yes. If you notice previously, the beneficiary's address, residential address, was stated as a United States address. So yes, the beneficiary is in the United States. If the beneficiary is currently in the United States, complete items number 46A to 46D. 46A, he or she arrived as a class of admission, and from this drop-down box, you would select the category that's applicable to you. In this case, this beneficiary arrived as a K1, alien fiancé of a United States citizen. Form I-94 arrival departure record number, that's stated here. Date of the beneficiary's arrival stated here. Date authorized stay expired or will expire as shown on Form I-94 or Form I-95. That information is stated here. The beneficiary's passport number is stated here. And we're moving on. Travel document number of the beneficiary. It's not applicable in this case. If you have a travel document number, this is where it's supposed to be provided. Country of issuance for passport or travel document. So the beneficiary's country of issuance for passport was Trinidad. Expiration date of passport or travel document stated there. Beneficiary's employment information. Provide the beneficiary's current employment information if applicable, even if they are employed outside of the United States. If the beneficiary is currently unemployed, type or print unemployed in item number 51A. So the beneficiary is unemployed, so we type as such, which means an address would not be available for an employer of the beneficiary, so we indicate NA in these spaces. Additional information about beneficiary. Was the beneficiary ever in was the beneficiary ever in immigration proceedings? We select no. So in the event that there was like an order of deportation at any point among other similar situations or circumstances, then the beneficiary's information that's applicable would be indicated here. If you answered yes, select the type of proceedings and provide the location and date of the proceedings. So, since the answer to 53 is no, then 54 would not be applicable. And after printing off the form again, in this case, you would put not applicable since the software did not allow these boxes to be typed in. So after printing, we would definitely indicate not applicable. Moving on to part 4, information about beneficiary continues. If the beneficiary's native written language does not use Roman letters, type or print his or her name and foreign address in their native written language. So in that case, since the beneficiary's native written language does not use Roman letters, we went ahead and provided the beneficiary's full name and foreign address here. If filing for your spouse, provide the last address at which you physically live together. If you would never live together, type or print never live together in item number 59A. So the petitioner is filing for his spouse in this instance, and they shared a previous address. So their previous address, if you remember, the petitioner's previous address was the same as this. So both petitioner and beneficiary shared this address previously. And these are the dates of the previous residence. The beneficiary is in the United States and will apply for adjustment of status to that of a lawful permanent resident at the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Office in city or town. So for the area or the location that would be processing your I-130, then you would go ahead and select the city or town as well as the state, or rather type in the city or town and select the applicable state. Moving on, the beneficiary will not apply for adjustment of status in the United States, but he or she will apply for an immigration visa abroad at the U.S. Embassy or U.S. Consulate. So since we already said that the beneficiary was going to be adjusting status in the United States and is currently in the United States, then this section would not be applicable. Note: choosing a U.S. Embassy or U.S. Consulate outside the country of the beneficiary's last residence does not guarantee that it will accept the beneficiary's case for processing. In these situations, the designated U.S. Embassy or U.S. Consulate has discretion over whether or not to accept the beneficiary's case. Part 5. Other information. Have you ever previously filed a petition for this beneficiary or any other alien? So the petitioner has never previously filed a petition for this beneficiary or any other non-US residents. So indicated here is no to support that. If you answered yes, provide the name, place, date of filing, and the result. So since this is not applicable here, Upon upon printing the form, you're going to indicate not applicable in all the spaces. Again, I was not able to type in these sections, so as a result, they are left blank for the time being. But as soon as the document prints, then you want to go ahead and complete them. The objective is not to leave any section on the form unanswered. If you are also submitting separate petitions for other relatives, provide the names of and your relationship to each relative. So if it were a case where the petitioner was submitting additional I-130, then he would go ahead and complete these sections for the additional beneficiaries. So all these sections would be not applicable since the petitioner is only filing for one beneficiary. So this is a warning here indicating that the USCIS investigates the claimed relationships and verifies validity of documents you submit. If you falsify a family relationship to obtain a visa, USCIS may seek to have you criminally prosecuted. So this is a warning to the petitioner, and they are telling you also that the penalties by law are as such, and this is again referring to the petitioner. So the petitioner is encouraged to read the penalties section of the Form I-130 instructions before completing this part. And this is the petitioner's statement. Select the box for either item number 1A or 1B if applicable. Select the box for item number 2. 1A, I can read and understand English, and I have read and understood every question and instruction on this petition and my answer to every question. So if the petitioner had used an interpreter, then this would be indicated here. And if there was someone else who prepared the document outside of the petitioner, then the information would also be provided here. Petitioner's contact information. So here the petitioner is required to state his daytime number, his mobile number, and email address if one is available. Petitioner's declaration and certification. The petitioner is required to read all this section here, and then after the document is printed, then the petitioner is expected to sign in ink, date of signature. So at the same time that you sign as the petitioner, you are expected to date the form. And again, this is the format: 2 digits month, 2 digits day, and 4 digits year. Note to all petitioners: if you do not completely fill out this petition or fail to submit required documents listed in the instructions, USCIS may deny your petition. So there is a guide on the USCIS website. The petitioner is expected to read the guide and follow all the information, instruction, and supporting documents requested and required for the processing of the application. Part 7, interpreters, contact information, certification, and signature. If an interpreter was used in the completing of the form, their information would be required in this section. Since that's not applicable here, we went ahead and indicated as such in the provided spaces. We continue. When the form is printed, you want to indicate NA right here. As I mentioned, you do not want to leave any section blank. Contact information, declaration, and signature of the person preparing this petition if other than the petitioner. So since it was the petitioner who completed the form, then the preparer section would be not applicable. If someone else had prepared the form, like an attorney or otherwise, then that person's information, name, address would all be stated there. Preparer's contact information, again, not applicable in this case, so we indicate as such. Preparer's statement, I'm not an attorney, so if the preparer is a non-attorney, this box would be checked. If the preparer was an attorney, then 7B would be checked. Preparer's certification, preparer's signature. So the preparer would be expected to read this area and then sign afterwards and date the document. And part 9, additional information. So if, let's say, for any section above, like whether it be like an address, employer information, let's say you had additional information, but the previous section was not adequate to place that information, then this is where you would come to complete or add the additional information. So if you needed more than one section, then you could print several copies of this Part 9 page. For each page, you are required to put in your family name, your last name, first name, and middle name. And in this case, there's no alien number available, so that would be none right there. You would put the page number, the part number, and the item number, and you would go ahead and put in the relevant information. You also could do a blank page once you provided your name and the page number, part number, and item number, and you would also need to sign and date Part 9 pages, as well as any additional pages that you add to the application. So this completes I-130. So remember to print, sign, and date your documents.